Hello from Humboldt State University's Native American Forum. I am Bob Schieffer. Tonight we shall be hearing from the two candidates running for the president seat of the American Anthropological Association in the fourth and final debate of the 2012 election. The first from the Darwinian Party is Herbert Spencer. The second from the Pro-Primitive Persons Party we have Franz Boaz. Neither of them have seen the questions I am about to ask. Which will you choose, America? It is up to you. The first question is on the matter of culture. How should we approach it? Spencer, you won the coin toss. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you, Bob. Let me say I am thrilled to be here. My definition of culture is simply revolutionary. Mainly in part that I grew up in civilized society, not in the squalor of the primal societies of the world.
Mr. Spencer, my question.
Oh, right, sorry. Yes, well, culture is like a creature. A living species of sorts. Some flourish while others die. It is the way of things. Each culture is simply an adaptation to the environment. Every minute part of the society is meant to fulfill a purpose.
Right. Okay, Mr. Boaz, it turns to you.
Thank Mr. Schieffer. As we have just heard, that is the main problem with anthropology today. Culture cannot truly be understood without seeing it through their eyes. There is no true right or wrong. Culture determines this for us and...
Oh, what a load of hogwash. What of the cannibals of Africa?
Let him finish.
And as I was saying, to truly understand a culture one must spend time with the culture, to become one with them.
Yes, very interesting. That leads us right into the next question. What are your policies regarding total immersion and field work? Franz Boaz, you can start.
Thanks, Bob. Well, it all comes down to cultural sensitivity, as the America people are becoming increasingly aware of. When I began my field work in 1883...
Wait, just how old are you?
That's classified, Bob. Do the math. Anyways, as I was saying, when I began my field work in 1883, I viewed the Inuit as being a primitive and lowly society, incapable of any intelligent thought. The same view that our very own Mr. Spencer holds. That all they did ran around in the snow hunting seals and fishing in holes. I bought into the Darwinian view that they were simply a primitive society on the verge of extinction. But as I spent time with the people, learned their beliefs and customs, I found they were just intelligent as us. Their hunting methods and mythology are simply brilliant. I then spent some time with the Northwestern Native Americans. It is a truly wonderful experience that develops your social awareness. I implore you to try.
Okay, Mr. Spencer, anything to add?
They are really not worth my time. All one really needs to do is look at the social complexity.
They are socially complex, you just need to look.
Please let him finish, Dr. Boaz.
Thank you, Bob. As I was saying, all one really needs to do is look at the social complexity. Society acts like a living organism. There begin as simple savage collections of people. C. Morgan laid this with exquisite detail. As the population increases, view it as a collection of cells, each performing a specific task. As a population rises, there is greater need for social organization and performance. If a society is unable to evolve, it dies, or is consumed by the greater cultures of the world. So in all honesty, field work is not relevant. It appears that Mr. Boaz may simply perform this silly form of research because of a white man's guilt trip.
Excuse me. That is most abhorrent. At least my work did not prompt the eugenics program of the Third Reich. My silly research, as you call it, has given great contributions to the modern process of anthropology. I am known as the father of modern anthropology, for God's sakes.
Please, gentlemen, let's keep this civil. Well, we should just move on to the next question before Mr. Boaz kills you in a termination ritual. You both have extremely different, and some may call it radical, views on race. Will you please share them with the people?
Oh, I'm glad you have asked this. I am sure the American people will agree with me. Race can be categorized scientifically by intellectual capabilities and physical traits. Everyone knows that the peoples of European descent are far superior to the rest of the racial groups of the world. A culture's intellectual prowess can be measured by the items they create. It can also be measured scientifically by brain size. There was a study done by Samuel George Morton where he discovered that whites had the greatest brain capacity and people of African descent had the lowest. This can of course be seen in the material items and the social complexity of the culture.
Can I interject this flawed and racist argument? I do not think this what the American people want to hear.
It was getting a little uncomfortable, you may. His time was up anyways.
What? I wasn't finished.
Please, Mr. Spencer, your time is up. Dr. Boaz now holds the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Schiffer. In all honesty, it is a miracle that he won the primary.
At least my political party has a better and more scientific name.
Well, that is true. But your point on material items being a sign of mental inferiority is greatly flawed. A culture may not develop certain tools because there is no real need for it in their environment. Also, many of these cultures have a brilliant mythological or linguistic system that even surpasses our own. Another issue was the study by Morton. It was incredibly flawed. He skewed the results, and honestly we cannot determine intelligence from brain size. The way you talk about race is almost as if they are different subspecies of humans. Race is itself a product of culture, a cultural concept in itself. We label and classify each other by color, and it is absolutely ludicrous.
Race is real. Your time with the natives has made you naive.
Do not call me naive. You are an ignorant fool. I believe in cultural relativism. To understand a culture, you must spend time with them.
It's survival of the fittest. Why study something that is doomed to disappear?
The nerve of you. Now you listen to me. I died on the podium trying to get this point across, and I will.
Please both of you settle down. We are professionals and I will not have you tear each other apart. Now I will try to bring us to a more civilized topic. How about we just explain your basic theory? My God, I feel like Jerry Springer. Dr. Boaz, you can begin.
Thank you. I was about to dive across the sofa. Well, we have already heard me drone on about the central idea of cultural relativism. So I will discuss the central issues revolving around the Darwinian party. They never account for cultural history. They are so wrapped up in interpreting the physical development of race they completely forget that each culture has a unique history that makes it what it is today. We may associate one type of invention with a certain type of culture, but one culture's reason for having it is completely different than another culture. Take for instance a simple obsidian blade. For one culture it may just be a tool for cutting food. For another it may be an important ceremonial object with an intricate myth or story behind it. This is why we cannot devise a single overarching theory of human development.
This is not a science. This is nothing but interpretive nonsense. There is no real method to this.
Please let him continue.
Yes, well, these myths created by the people may be used to instruct them on how to produce the tool. Of course you would not understand this, Mr. Spencer, because you have never done any first-hand work. Another important piece is you should not assume that a culture learned something from diffusion off of another more advanced society. It should be studied through the context. I say it again, the context in which it appeared. To do this you must live as they do. We can never achieve this by sitting in comfy armchairs in a library, or by studying them from afar off a charming colonial veranda. You have to get your hands dirty.
Very good, but your time is up. Mr. Spencer, it is your turn. Try to explain yours in a clear and concise way.
That was a load of hogwash. His theory has no real method behind it. They are nothing but country escapes with the savages. I firmly believe that, as I have mentioned before, society is like a living creature, and I wish to point out 3 main points that I failed to mention before. The first is that population rises exponentially, sometimes reaching hundreds or even thousands the times of the original count. The second is that as the population increases, there is a greater development incompletely. This is true in biology, so it is true for humanity. The third and most important point is that as complexity raises, so does the interdependence between the individuals. Now, some dependence in primitive societies did exist. It has only become noticeable in developed societies. Let us think a moment on why this is. Think for a moment of the individual in one of Franz Boaz's cultures. These regions with little cultural development, the individual is completely independent from the other. This is due to the small population size. In complex societies like our own, we need specialization. The individual then acts like a cell in an organism, performing a special duty.
Sorry, but your time is up. Any closing statements from you, Dr. Boaz?
Not really. Believe I made myself clear. I hope America will make the right choice.
Okay, well, thank you both. It was a truly entertaining debate, and I am honestly surprised that this was allowed to air on television uncensored. Thank you, America. This is Bob Schieffer reporting for you tonight. Good night from Humboldt State University.